when you're talking about people who are chasing money and wealth, it's because their compass or their point of relation is always external, and that constantly changes, versus purpose is enduring because it's your soul's North Star. It's internal.
Everybody, welcome to Fulfillment Project. We have a special one today for you. Andrew Windham on the line here with us. He's the founder, investor, and advisor of Educated Freedom. They're doing so much. He's got his own podcast you got to check out as well, and he'll tell us where else you can find him. Andrew, welcome to Fulfillment Project. How's it going?
It's super to be here. And what's really awesome is how we got connected. You know,
how did we get connected?
We got connected through Isaac, who is now one of the incredible CPAs that we use for our clients inside our team. And it happened through the power of LinkedIn. Like, if I look at the three greatest relationships in the last year and a half on a professional basis, and I've had some good personal ones, but I found Isaac, who just shares great wisdom in terms of accounting, and he dropped the question. He was looking to move upstream and coming out of his non-compete that just ended, around the Independence Day this year, which was congratulations to Isaac. But
a beautiful irony there. Independence Day is independence from the non-compete.
Wasn't it great? Baby. So that started the conversation. I just said, hey, look, if I can share some things, be happy to. And that dialogue started over several conversations. And then I'd commented on somebody, and one of my best team members, paraplanner Rebecca Romney, she responded, and she had in her tagline, she was a candidate for CFP. So I fired her a little snarky direct message. Either you have too much time on your hands, or you're a glutton for punishment, just curious which. Only to find out this gem of a human being and all was interviewing and looking specifically for like a hybrid type of an opportunity. She was interviewing, and as soon as it became apparent she wasn't going to relocate at her own cost or whatever to be in person, they pretty much just exited her out of the process. And it was great because all of our clients are all over the country, and I told my wife, she's an incredible, incredible human being. She's got great follow through. She loves people, just all the values and cultures that we have. And so
and you found her on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And what's
one
funny is
comment. Amazing.
Yeah, I've had multiple conversations recently where somebody was like, oh, she's awesome. Where do you find her? And I go, LinkedIn. And they're like, it's like I remember when I was in a small group with church one time, and we were going around with all the couples telling how we met our spouse. And it got to this one couple, Matt and Tana, and it felt like it was going to go like really weird. You just feel the energy change. And Matt goes, I'll tackle it. He goes, Matt on Matchstock. But it was 20 years ago, right? So
yeah.
Maybe not that long, but yeah, probably pretty close to 20 years ago. So it's just amazing how time evolves. I think one thing that's consistent, man, people are people, and almost everything you want, it's all about relationships.
Oh, and I want to get there. Where I want to start for the audience, Andrew, is I love that you're on the show today because you have something that a lot of people want, and that's knowledge about what happens when I get to where I want to be. So you work with some of the wealthiest families in America. So these are people that seem to have enough money. Most listeners are trying to get to the point of simply having enough. So I want to ask you, people that seem to have enough, what are they thinking about? And the context is, I found myself throughout life, blinders are on, single-minded, single focus on having enough money, or what I think is enough money. And I'm excluding everything else going on in that season of my life. And I've kind of woken up to the idea of, oh man, maybe I should kind of take the blinders off and look around a little bit. I'm curious what the wealthiest people in America are thinking about. People that aren't thinking necessarily about enough or covering this month's grocery bill.
So there's so many ways you could go with that. I almost feel obligated, though, to share a brief snippet of a couple of studies that have come out that actually show that even dual income families in today's rising inflation, all those environments, that the approximate household income between $70,000 to $90,000 is actually enough to basically meet all of your foundational needs, regardless of whether you live in rural town USA or you live in, New York, California, where tax rates might be, 17, 20% on top of whatever your federal tax rate is. If I think about how I would answer enough, it's kind of like you answer it with a question. It depends on what your definition of is, right? Because what's the foundation for how you decide that? I really love Sahil Bloom's new book, The Five Types of Wealth in particular. Now, I would technically say, although I think he addressed in there what I would call the sixth, and maybe he did it to stay aspiritual, apolitical for sales purposes, or I don't know Sahil to really know. But, you've got social wealth, you got financial wealth, you got relationship wealth, you've got physical wealth, like your health, right? You definitely have mental health. And he kind of tied in spiritual health to mental health. And I definitely think I would say it's kind of hard to have good mental health if you don't have good foundational spiritual health, at least from my personal perspective. But the easiest way for me to answer that, I think, after some idle ramblings, would be this. You have to answer the question is, what do you want? What do you want? And that's a question I'm struggling with even right now as my oldest son has gone through and been married, and life just changes. Like some of your core purpose when you're a parent with kids, that stuff changes and evolves. And how do you manage those relationships? But what I'm finding is the people who create the space, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures and above, the people who create space and are essentially asking some version of what do I want? And they're acting out of intention and purpose and thoughtfulness. That's really the definition of enough. I would say for me, what I want is my life to reflect my calling for Christ and everything that I do. And that's kind of part of my life's mantra. Live your highest purpose all day, every day, in every role that you play. But there's plenty of people that we constantly compare their front stage in one silo, wealth.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what's going on backstage and all the baggage and everything. We just see, the perfected AI, if you will, with all the makeup and the smiles and all of that stuff, right? But there's plenty of people who are absolutely miserable. Matter of fact, they're so addicted to the chase of money or greatness. Scheffler's a great guy. You've talked about him in a recent post. He gets it. It's like, absolutely, it's awesome to win, but it's so quickly fleeting, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm so happy you said that, Andrew. And what I think I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is knowing your purpose and chasing your purpose, your first thing first, is what gives you true wealth. And I think so many people get tied up in the busyness of life that they don't take the time to identify that by themselves or with their spouse. And that is the key, to create that time, going on a little retreat and carving out. I just talked a couple weeks ago about my wife and I on a retreat a couple years ago. And this wasn't like a formal retreat. Grandma took the kids. We went to a cool treehouse setup. And she asked me, Andy, who do you want to be? Andy, what do you want to have? What do you want to do? And we had 2 days to think about that. They seem like easy questions right off the bat, but it's like, man, once you get thinking about it, it's like, who do I want to be? And then you shape your life around that. And another thing I heard that connects is you can live on a lot less than you think you need. So don't let money be an excuse to not achieving your passion and your purpose, because maybe you don't need a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house with a pool overlooking a vineyard. Maybe you can live in a 3-bed, 2-bath in a simple neighborhood, or whatever. I use an extreme example there. But don't let money be the excuse for you being unsatisfied with your life. Because one of the main drivers of this podcast was I noticed people seem unfulfilled. They seem empty in their eyes. They're guys like me in my mid-30s. I'm in the peak, the pinnacle of my life. I'm going to always look back at this time in my life. It's going to be the good old days. And yet I look at my peers, my brothers, and my sisters, and I'm like, you guys look tired. You look weary. You look like you're a dog in a cage, not a dog on the hunt. And one of my favorite saying is, a dog in a cage is bothered by the fleas. A dog on the hunt doesn't notice them. And it's like so many people are just dying out there. And so to bridge this back to you, Andrew, when we talked last time and when we talked, I was like, I got to get this guy on the pod. You have so much wisdom that oozes out of you. You were talking about your sons.
Really kind.
You're talking about their love for track, and you were talking about the pillars and making sure the pillars of life are even. I'm wondering if you can bring that to my guest.
So here's the deal. If you chase everything, you get nothing. And that's really the issue that people have. Okay. The thing is you see somebody, and we'll just use something that's like a car. Okay. So like let's say you've always wanted this, Lamborghini or whatever. So everything that you do, you think about, you literally manifest this goal because you write the goal down and you're tracking the goal and all of those things, and you get it. And the reality is, I'm not going to say it will be as fleeting as maybe a short victory like with Scheffler, where he has to go right back on the tour and play the next week, right? Because sports so often is, okay, what did you do that's exceptional, and how are you increasing it 10% today, and how are you going to double it tomorrow kind of deal, especially for professional and college athletes. I lived that for a season. But even with a car for a while, like, I'll just speak for myself. I'm not a car guy, so it's probably a bad analogy, but you get this car, you get whatever. It's no fun by yourself. Yeah. That's why I say everything that really matters boils back to relationship. And, another way to kind of illustrate this, there are considered nine ultra high net worth personalities, and 2 of them are VIPs and moguls. And we don't work with them. And the reason we don't work with them is because they use money as a manipulator, as power, and like that's where they derive their value. And so when you talk about purpose in those things, it's really about where do you derive your value, and is it sustainable and enduring and all those things. The key with purpose is it's enduring. Like, I think the way that I would describe
Hold on, I got
to
pause there.
Yeah.
Purpose is enduring. So your purpose, I'm just thinking, if I'm the listener and I want to capture this in my self-reflection guide, your purpose isn't something you get and then it's over with. Your purpose is something that you're constantly pursuing. Bam, epiphany. Sorry, go on.
No, it's effectively your soul's North Star. Purpose is the living out and the pursuit of your soul's North Star. It's really where, in my opinion, you resonate with rightness, if you could, get it right. Because I said earlier, my goal is to live my highest purpose all day, every day, in every role that we play. And that came from during COVID. I had a mentor that said, Andrew, that's God's way of sending everybody to their room for timeout, because he was so frustrated with their lack of focus and purpose and all of that. And he said, some people decided to drink and other people chose to think. And for me, I'm
Whoa.
grateful that I went the think route. And everything is about perspective. COVID for me was basically a huge timeout where I no longer had, I basically was forced to self-reflect and be uncomfortable with me, Andy. And
Yeah.
it
You couldn't
required
get
me.
distracted anymore with the busyness
Yeah.
of life.
Well, I mean, I was in a stage in 2016. I ran a local business association and all this stuff was going on. And we owned a high school sports broadcasting and we were trying to figure out how do we get social media. And then COVID hits and a lot of folks didn't even, I mean, schools didn't even know how to teach via Zoom, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
like it took at least on a conservative basis 2 to 3 weeks for just the average person to even figure out like how they were going to come out of just this complete fruit basket turnover their entire life.
Yep.
And during that, I just chose, I mean, because there was no alarm clock to go off. I got my sleep right. I started reading more. I had a mentor that said, you know, I was searching for the secret, right? And he said, I read the Bible every day. And I'm like, Jim, that's great. But what else are you doing? He goes, I read the Bible every day. And then I got really crafty. So we had some more conversation and I circled back right at the end of breakfast. And I said, so I got it. I'm going to read the Bible every day. What else? And he goes, and he looked right into my soul and he said, Andrew, I read the Bible every single day. Just like that. And I have delayed intelligence. Thankfully, I've got good company. I often say the disciples had delayed intelligence, so there's hope.
Amen.
That's why Jesus fed the 4,000 and the 5,000. And the second go around, before he did it, if you go read, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, this is not a direct biblical quote, but basically like, hey, knuckleheads, I can't stay here and do this forever. Like, I kind of need you to pick up what I'm putting down here.
Oh, yeah.
But,
oh, my gosh.
But to me, that's where it's is that space for COVID for me personally. I'd spent years looking for the why.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the harder you chase it, the harder it is to find it. You got to get still. You got to reflect. You got to be calm. And all the answers are internal. They're not external. But when you're talking about people who are chasing money and wealth, it's because their compass or their point of relation is always external and that constantly changes versus purpose is enduring because it's your soul's North Star. It's internal.
I love that. I love if there's one takeaway from this, that is it. And people, if you don't know what your soul's North Star is, make it a priority in the next 30 days. Do what you got to do. Take a PTO day. Get a night at a local hotel with your wife. Get a sitter. Take a lunch. Take a couple lunches. It will be the inflection point of your whole life. And by the way, it continues to evolve and grow as you continue to learn about yourself. But it's enduring and it's not fleeting. And if you spend your life chasing partner, you're going to get to partner. And then you're going to wonder what the heck was next. And oh my gosh, I missed so much stuff on the track here. What was I thinking? So this is your wake up call. This is your buddy Andy saying, wake up, think about it, figure out what direction you really want to be going in. Also, Andrew, I love when you're telling the stories because I'm Andrew. So it feels like you're talking to me and I'm at that breakfast and he's like, Andrew, I read the Bible every day. And I'm like, yeah, I'm about to jump through my screen here. Okay. So, yes, purpose, bam. At first things first, second things happen. You put second things first things get forgotten. So that's very clear, underlined, highlighted in Andrew Windhamism. So I've got a lot of people that listen that are in college, seniors in college, just graduating. What should their money goals be? And you've got sons, so I'm thinking you've thought about this. Like, or early stage family. What are people just starting out? What are their money goals?
What are their money goals? Again, I think it comes back to what it is that you want. I really, I hate to be repetitive, but it really comes back to what do you want? Because I'll tell you the thing. I'll tell you the thing that's the shift. You think money's the answer to all your problems when you don't have it. But what I'll share with you is the more money you have, the more problems you have. Now, we call those full net problems, right? But it's always amazing to me where I find business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, they're actually their own problem. They're their own bottleneck because they spend so much time, Andy, trying to figure out how to avoid tax versus realize that paying tax is actually a blessing. Now, it's back to the dog and the fleas and the cage and the hunt scenario, right? It's like if we're riding a bike through the woods down a trail and we're thinking, don't hit a tree, we're focused on the rocks, inevitably that's what we're going to do because that's where our focus is. Now, I make a living helping wealthy folks with tax strategy and efficiency. William Rehnquist said we're required to pay every penny of tax we owe, but we're not required to pay a penny more. So the thing we like to say is, rather than tip the IRS, tip your favorite server or your favorite service, provider. And by the way, the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion is 3 square meals and a roof over your head every day. I have to think on that. But the point is, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, number one, I think back when me and my wife got married, we literally came back from the honeymoon and found out my oldest kid was on the way. Holy cow, so much for practice.
Yeah.
And I was working at IBM. I was making $30,000 a year. We were having to use credit cards to bridge the month to month until I got a quarterly bonus to basically pay it off. My wife was working some while she was pregnant. When she couldn't work, I started working at Circuit City in the evening after IBM all the way through the holidays, those kind of things. And we had an apartment that we settled on that had a closet or a pantry, if you will. It's literally a huge door, just like you would think. And so your mind says there's all kinds of room and depth back here. And you open it up and the shelf is so thin, you can't even fit a family size can of baked beans on it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And we still laugh and talk about and share that story almost 25 years after, that was a thing. That's a problem too, but all the other problems, if we go back to buying stuff, cars, boats, okay, we don't understand because we haven't gotten far enough to know all the maintenance, all the insurance, all the liabilities, the depth underneath the surface of the thing that we're chasing. Back to purpose, that's the beauty, right? If you're chasing depth in terms of purpose, it's a completely different thing than depth in terms of more distraction and more output of energy. One is filling, the other one is just like a sieve. It just drains you, man.
Yeah. So people are thinking, because I'm thinking, I got to figure this out. Are there any books you've read, any books you recommend that help people understand, evaluate their life for purpose?
Yeah, actually there is a really cool quote on a guy by the name of Frederick Buckner wrote. It's called Wishful Thinking, A Seeker's ABC. And out of that's actually one of my favorite quotes around vocation. And vocation, or vocare, Latin root there, a little philosophical, sounds like I know what I'm talking about here, but it just means to call or to summon, like a divine calling. And so Buckner in the book says the place God calls you to is the place where your deepest gladness and greatness and the world's deepest hunger meet.
Whoa, that's a heavy one. I'm trying to process that one.
Yeah. And by the way, there's no part of that that says you need a college education or all of those things to do that. You know, I think that the Lord gives us 3 to 5 unique capabilities. And so if I was going to, give any advice, it's as quick as possible, begin to ask, reflect, get feedback on what are those 3 to 5 unique capabilities, because college, jobs, experiences allow you to hone, improve, mess up, get better, learn and grow and evolve there. But those 3 core capabilities, I mean, if you've got the gift of gab, then you've got the gift of gab. A college degree or a doctorate is not going to make it better. You will get tools, ideas, frameworks, but the real key, the real journey to life in our vocation is how do we use that for the right purpose? Like, we can't speak to everybody. Where do we speak to the places that create maximum impact, where the world has deep hunger, right? Where those 2 things collide.
I love that. That is a call back to my podcast with Bridget Nohara, where she was talking about we all have these God-given gifts, her words. And once you recognize those, you work on them, you hone them into skills of your craft. And it all starts with, just like you said, I like the way you built that out. So if anyone listened to Bridget Nohara's podcast and they're like, ooh, that resonated with me, I feel like Andrew just took it to the next step of how we refine that a little bit more. And Isaac, on the podcast I did with him, he challenged me and we locked horns a little bit. I've been thinking about it for the last month.
He'll do that, right? He's firm in his opinions.
And
I love it.
He's got an idea or two. He said his family is his vocation. His job is just something he does. What's your take?
I think that's a healthy place to be. I think, not to get overly sexist in today's culture, if you will, but I have lived personally, coached folks, and then got to kind of eat my own medicine early in my life. Men tend to equate their entire worth, value, and identity to their secular vocation versus their life's vocation, if you will. And I think you have to differentiate those. Women, conversely, and I'm working through this with my wife and a little bit now with my oldest son getting married, women very often make their identity based off of how successful they make a home, how successful they are with their kids, and can live and die by the success or failure or the hurts and the wins of their kids. And I think guys do too. But if in a traditional sense, dad goes off to work and kills business or whatever and comes home, and mom may work a little bit too, but generally it's the superwoman that manages the schedule and plays professional unpaid Uber, taxi car driver, and all of those things. So much of their value for 18 years is wrapped up in the kids. When they go off to college, it's easy to be lost. And that's why marriages get in trouble, is because of those things. And that's why, like the retreat that you did, Andy, I just can't commend you enough. Like, the reality is most guys are scared to death to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times that I'm scared to do that. And the times that I'm most scared to do that are when I'm most distracted and when I least need it. It's like when we tell our clients, when you get to the point that you say, I cannot afford a vacation, you have more than crossed the line where the only thing that you need is space, rest, recovery, and a vacation.
That is words of wisdom. I'm unpacking it in my mind. I can't wait to re-listen to this episode because you just fit so much into a small piece. And it does seem so relevant in my circle, in my sphere. I've noticed over the last couple of years, many couples, after having been married for 20 years, they get divorced. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like you did the hard stuff. And now you're supposed to be in, like, what is it? You've done it. You've run the race so as to win. Now enjoy your kids being grown up. And I haven't been able to piece it together. Yeah, and I wonder if what you just said is a piece of the puzzle, is they attached their identity so much to one season of life that when the season changed, they couldn't cope with the seasonal change, so they had to kind of blow everything up to rediscover themselves.
Identity is everything.
What do you mean? Welcome to Fulfillment Project. If you get something out of this episode, please like and subscribe and share with a friend or 100 friends. Now let's get back to it.
Your identity is everything. So business owners, our clients, when they can't exit a business, it's because they are stuck or they are frozen in time with a specific identity. To be able to allow them to exit from a healthy perspective, we literally bring in an expert or two that, depending upon the personality, that will coach them through an identity exercise where nothing has physically changed in their environment, but what they're actually doing is they're going out into the future with no risk, and they're saying, okay, this is who the person I have always envisioned would be. Like, this is who it is. Okay, great.
Yeah.
What is that person doing? Oh, well, that person's got all kinds of free time. They're playing golf. Okay. So then it begins to allow them to understand, okay, do you really want to play golf 7 days a week, 365 days a year? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
That gets empty real quick. And so you start to unpack that, or you make them take 2 days with no cell phones and vacation, then a week, then 10 days. But it's functionally all about identity. And culture knows this, and higher education knows this. That's why they have driven the cost of college through the roof, because we have a huge portion of our culture of families that believe if their kids don't go to an Ivy League school, which is indoctrinating the crap out of kids right now, and not really in a good way, in my personal opinion, then as a parent, you're a failure. And here's what I would tell you. I have 3 boys. One's married. One's going to be a senior in college. One's going to be a junior in college. They're all completely different. And I won't say that we parented them all exactly tit for tat the same, but the rules of the house, the expectations, having them each earn their own car and teach them finance, like all of those things were done in a relatively similar way as best as possible based off of personality and life events going on. And they're all completely different. And so my success as a father is not directly relative to the decisions that, and if you think about this is exactly the same. I mean, like, that's why Christ loves us. Like, he just loves us. He allows necessity. He allows us the space to make our own decisions and to suffer and learn and grow from those. But that's really the essence of his love, is he just loves us regardless. He's there to pick us up. He's there to encourage us if we're in the Word, if we're spending time with him. And that's how we're supposed to be leading our family as parents and our businesses too.
I love that. And you said every podcast hits me a little different. This one, Andrew, I'm like, wow, I really got to re-listen to this one and take notes. And I can't wait to do the self-reflection guide and then do it myself, because this is,
You're kind.
There's a lot here. And like Ike said in our podcast, he's like, sometimes he reads books even when they aren't meant for him in the moment, because he can grow into those things. And a lot of our listeners may not have kids in college or kids at all, but it's what Andrew is saying is so valuable, so we can start to reflect and think about these things, because a lot of these are habits of character that take years and decades to build up to. And by the time you get to where Andrew's at, man, it's too late. If you haven't been working on it already, I mean, maybe you can pull a quick one and make it work out, but hopefully you've taken the time. And I think of this all the time. You said it, going to play golf every day. I heard someone say, well, okay, so you retire, you go to a beach. Your vision is, I want to go to a beach and get drunk. Okay, so you do that for 3 days. Now you're sunburned and hungover. And now what's the next 20 years look like? Like,
right.
You need to think these things through and then start building hobbies intentionally into your life that are seasonally appropriate that can flourish over time, so that one day, if you have the gift of being able to work less than 40 hours a week, you can fill that time in with something meaningful that you're passionate about. How many people, I've met many people greeting me at Walmart, and I'm talking to them, and they've got plenty of money. They're just bored. So they want somewhere to go every day. And it's like,
but this ties back to where we started the conversation is, and if we tie it back to vocation, and if you have spent any time just reading the Bible, regardless of your position or beliefs, there is no conversation about retirement.
yeah,
Okay?
this is something I've been growing in. Go, baby, go.
Yeah. And from a financial perspective, the whole concept of retirement can be summed up in the analogy of we're climbing Mount Everest, and at the point we hit the top where we have enough, whatever that number is, right, then we no longer have to do anything. But what I want us to think about is if we were driving a car to the top of Mount Everest, and the point we got there, we steered it, we pushed the gas, we put in all the sweat equity to get there. But then as soon as we went over the cuss and went down the other side, we took our hands off the wheel. We put our feet flat on the floorboard, and hopefully you had your seatbelt on, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. But like the speed and the rate of gravity and the pull down, like it is a disaster waiting to happen. And the key or the difference is the purpose piece or the vocation, because the thing that I've started to do now, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but it's what I'm trying and experiencing, is now I don't have kids that are in my house that are my own kids, but I've coached some middle school kids. So now I'm starting to reach out and, I wouldn't say co-parent, but hopefully speak wisdom that I wish somebody else had spoken into my kid.
Yep.
Hire them and bring them in and, pay them $15 an hour to help me go to the post office and mail some books to people, because that's kind of part of one of my mission work, is to mail out a really cool book that pops up when I think of somebody. But in the meantime, it allows me the space and the proximity to teach them about money, or to ask about what's going on in life and share some of that wisdom, because I really believe our ultimate vocation in life is hand up, hand down. And it's not a handout, right? It's like we're constantly learning how to be the captain of the ship, to take people out to fish. We're fishing in some parts of life, and in some parts of life, we're being taught, what fishing, even is.
Yeah.
And what we fish for changes. Early on, we fish for significance. Then we kind of figure out that significance is that relationship, at least for me, with living my calling. And how do I help more people do that? So I think the biggest fallacy is you ever arrive. You absolutely never do. You never do.
Woo! I'm just talking with a buddy about that over breakfast this morning. As a boy, looking at my dad, I thought he had arrived. And now as a dad myself, and talking to my dad as a man and not as his son, he never felt like he arrived. There's always, your eyes are always up. And to your point, I love, bam, electricity shot from the crown of my head to my heels right there, brother. But the other point you hit on is, and I don't polish me up a little bit here, but don't wait till retirement to do what you want to do what you feel like you're called to do. Start incorporating that into your life today, because
we literally do an exercise with all of our clients that we call a lifestyle extender, which we stole from Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach. And here's just quickly how it goes. How old do you think you'll live? And you pick a number. So let's just walk you through it real quick, Andy.
Yeah.
If you had a magic, crystal ball, and you looked out, how old do you think you'll live based off of just what you know about your family's life expectancy?
Yeah, 85.
Okay, perfect. So the reality is we don't get to 85 and we just drop dead, right?
Yeah. Or no.
Okay. So Peter Attia talks about lifespan and health span, but we won't go there.
Quick death and slow death, baby. I'm reading Outlive right now. I love that book, Peter Attia. Got to get him on the show next.
Yeah. So you're 85. So we bump into each other and I say, hey, listen, I hear you got a great podcast. I love the fact that you're chasing, purpose and all this intentionally. I'd like to gift you, because of all the impact you've made on other people's lives, 20 additional years. You have unlimited financial resource, have perfect health, but that's all you got. You got 20 years to do exactly what your purpose is. If you haven't been doing work up to that point, then you're kind of in a panic of different sorts, because now you really feel guilty for squandering the perfect 20 years. But the second thing is, we have them walk through what are the types of things that you would do. And then we go back to the lifespan versus health span. And we go, the reality is you're going to get to a point, no matter how much you work on and no matter how well science is working on all this, where you're going to lose capability to do some of the things that you would love to do with perfect health. So why not do those now? And I think the thing is, I had somebody say this to me early in my professional career. I love playing golf. And I'm like, with the kids and all, I just don't have time. And they're like, okay, but if you love the game, what keeps you from going out and spending 15 minutes on the putting green, just putting balls?
Yeah.
What keeps you from going out and playing, 2 or 3 holes of golf or 9 holes of golf? Don't give up 4.5, 5 hours of your life. Go play with a couple people you love doing life with. Don't worry about how they play. Just be present and enjoy them and play 9 holes. Or go to the range, or those things.
And that's a great example, Andrew, of find a crack in your life. Everyone's saying, I don't have time. How you doing? I'm busy. Everyone says, I'm busy. I want to do this. I just don't have the time. The busy merit badge, man, right? Yeah. Like, everybody wants to earn the busy merit badge. They want a PhD in busy. I'm the busiest there ever was. But it's like, find a crack for what matters to you. You got to wake up earlier. Do it. If you reflect and you identify that as something important to you, find a crack. And I love how you said, Andrew, maybe it's not the fulfillment of playing 18 holes at the most beautiful course in the world, but maybe it is hitting the putting green. Maybe it is getting a hole or 3 in. Maybe it is 9 holes when you can squeeze it in. Find a spot for it. I love that. Andrew, all right. You get the last word. Oh, I can't believe we're already over 40 minutes. I meant for 30, and here we are. We're just flying. You get the last word, brother. What do you want to say? Where can people find your stuff if they want to know more? Our podcast has been on hold, but we're looking to stand it back up. We're going to take a shift of how we're doing that, but it's about culture, career, and cash flow. It's specifically intended for founders, but I think there's lots of stuff. I'm just kind of sharing journeys of life. And the reason we're going to stand it back up is a way just to journal the wisdom and the experiences of great people in my life that I run into, and stories to help folks. But culture, career, and cash flow. Culture's on lead yourself, lead your family, lead your business. And if those are in alignment, you don't have to be exhausted like I was for the first 35, 40 years of my life, trying to be all things to all people, because you can't. Career is, how do we consistently hold ourselves accountable to chip away the residues of scope creep as a founder, go back to the 3 to 5 things that are our unique capabilities, which are why we started the business, the things that we don't need an alarm clock to do because we're wired to be fired up and to go get and to do those things, and gift the opportunity for other people to use their 3 to 5 around us to serve us and the people and causes we care about most. And then cash flow, that's a label around money and business that business owners know if cash doesn't flow, their business doesn't grow. Oh, yeah. And life cannot be really great if we don't have cash flow, right? But the reality is cash flow is a label that is really relevant to, we get more cash flow or we get more resource based off of direct proportion of impact, not influence, impact, value that we deliver. And then the rest of life, if you help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. Yeah. And so life's just about service and stewardship of that impact, of that fleeting influence, the finances, et cetera. And so,
when you get to a point where you realize you have enough, what you really ultimately understand about money is it carries only the amount of energy and emotion that you assign to it. And ultimately it is the ultimate and simplest reflection of values and priorities, because it goes where you leverage it and put it to double down on impact. So podcast, I'm trying to get better on consistency.
Spotify, YouTube.
It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. It should be on most any of your major podcast things.
And what's it called?
Educated Freedom, Culture, Career, and Cash Flow.
Love it, baby.
I'm not the smartest guy, so I have to keep things really simple and consistent there. And then other places you might find me. I love hanging out in communities like Scent, C12, Faith-Driven Entrepreneur, Faith-Driven Teenager, Faith-Driven Investor, all things where effectively what we do all day, every day is using those 3 to 5 capabilities to just make an impact, man. That's what matters.
Andrew Windham, you are the man. I'm so grateful our paths crossed. Ike St. John, thank you for connecting us via LinkedIn. Crazy how life happens. Can't wait to have you back on, Andrew. Good luck. God bless. Godspeed, brother.
All right, buddy. Thank you, man.
Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in to Fulfillment Project. I have a feeling you're thinking about someone right now that you wish heard this episode. Send it to them. Send them a link right now before you change your focus. Give a 5-star, give a thumb up, subscribe YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Substack for additional resources like my reflection guides. I love y'all. Have a great one. Talk soon.